Hey everybody, this is Russ from Metro Game Core. A couple weeks ago I did a video about tablet gaming and how I felt like it was a somewhat overlooked aspect when it comes to handheld gaming. You know, you throw a cheap telescopic controller onto your tablet or your phone and you've already got a gaming console. In that video I was really impressed with the GameSir X5 Lite, which is a $35 controller that works over USB-C, but I also mentioned that there was going to be a Bluetooth version coming out soon called the X5s, and I finally got that one in the mail, and so we're going to review that here today. So this one is very similar to the X5 Lite with a couple additional bells and whistles, including that wireless Bluetooth connectivity, but then also it has analog triggers and a couple other features as well, which we'll go over in this video. And long story short, I think that at $50, this thing is probably the best value you can find when it comes to a telescopic controller. It goes toe-to-toe with a lot of other controllers that are priced at around $150 or $200. We got a lot of ground to cover, so grab your favorite snack and drink. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's start by checking out what's inside of the box. This was a review unit sent over from GameSir, but like with all my videos, all opinions are my own. They're not going to see this ahead of time, and no money was exchanged in any way. So we've got the controller inside of its own hard shell case. We've got some additional rubber bumpers, and then also a charging cable, which will also allow you to use this wired. So you can plug this into a computer and just use it like that. We've also got some instructions, and then a sticker and a contact card. So it's a pretty simple setup, but that's what I like about it. It's a no-frills experience. Let's take a look at the hard shell case. I love the fact that this is included in the first place. It's not in the cheaper model. And one of the things I like about it is that it has pass-through right here. So if you close it up, you can still charge it via USB-C if you would like. Inside of the case are these little tweezer tong things, and this is because this device does work with the Switch and the Switch 2, so it allows you to switch out the ABXY pattern. So if you want to have your A button on the right, this is how you would set that all up. It's very easy to change them out. The controller itself is very simple and kind of your traditional telescopic controller design. You open it up and put your device inside. It gets up to 213 millimeters in overall width, which is big enough for small tablets, about 8 inches, as well as the iPad mini. So here's my 8.8-inch tablet, the one I used in that previous video. It's about the size of an iPad mini, and it's got enough space plus maybe about a ½ inch to connect. So yeah, it's very easy to get it in. One of the things I like about this controller is that as soon as you open it up, it's going to turn it on and try to pair in the last thing that it paired with. And in this case, it was that Android tablet, which means that all I have to do is open it up, put the tablet inside, it's going to automatically connect. Then from there, once I disconnect it and close it back up, it's just going to turn it off. You can see here it's removed the input. So I like the fact that it's pretty plug and play once you have it paired. As far as layout, it's got that Xbox or Nintendo Switch sort of design to it, and it also has like some pretty big ergonomic bumps here on the back, which gives you a good amount of grip despite being a relatively small and lightweight controller. The analog sticks are not full size. You can see they're a little bit smaller than what you would expect on like an Xbox controller, but overall I think they're pretty good, and they are Hall effect, which means they're not going to be prone to stick drift, and I think they are very accurate and nice and grippy on the cap too. The D-pad is rubber membrane. It has a relatively light travel to it, but it has that nice tactile feel to it. The pivot here is okay, not the best I've seen. In a practical test, the first thing I like to try is contra. So what I like to do here is press down on the D-pad and rock it left and right and see how much the character moves. And I would consider this to be a little bit too sensitive for me. If I wiggle it just a little bit, I can keep the character in place, but if I go just a little bit more than that, maybe like a 20% effort, then yes, you can definitely make the character move. And so when it comes to hitting accidental diagonals, I do see this being a little bit more sensitive than I would prefer. Now for Street Fighter style games where you do want to roll the D-pad, this is really easy. And so I found this to be excellent when it comes to hitting the diagonal, but a little bit worse when it comes to not hitting it when you don't want to. My final test would be a precision platformer like Celeste, where sometimes you want to go up, down, left, and right, sometimes you want to do a diagonal. And I found that there are times when I get a false diagonal or I hit it accidentally. I'd say maybe 10% of the time when I'm not trying to do it. And so I would say that as I'm playing this game, there are going to be moments where I would die and then blame it on the controller, which is not a position I would like to be in. So in the end, I would probably give this like a B+ in that it's probably going to be fine for most people, but if you're very sensitive about those diagonals, then you probably wouldn't like this. I would say that, maybe avoid games like Tetris or a precision platformer, but everything else should be okay. In all other respects, it's a good D-pad. I like the positioning of it. I don't think it's too bad in terms of just the overall feel of it, but yes, it's a little bit too sensitive for me. On the right, we've got our face buttons, and these are rubber membrane, but they're just about perfect. You know, they don't bottom out, they're not too high, they don't have too much travel, they're not too hard to press down on. And I love the fact that they are good face buttons, but then also they're swappable, like it's like 2 hits in one. Other than that, we have our select and start buttons. These are soft click micro switches, are really nice. And then we also have this M button for hotkeys, and then also this chicken button, which is like the menu or the home button, depending on what you're using. Up top, we've got the shoulders and triggers. These shoulders are also that soft micro switch, very quiet and easy to press down on. And then we have these analog triggers right here. Now, these are going to give you that full 0 to 100% and everything in between, but you can also change them to be hair trigger in the software. I'll show you that later. On the back, we've got our GameSir logo and these ergonomic grips, and they do have a bumpy texture to them, and it's a hard plastic, which means they're not going to degrade over time. And I think it feels good overall in terms of texture. We've got this soft mat here, and then we've got this kind of grippy plastic on the back. The ergonomic bumps I think are really good. They are rounded and large, but then also there's just like this little slot right here for your middle finger. And so it is a pretty easy and comfortable way to hold this controller. All of the weight kind of goes right here into the bottom, into the palm of your hand. So it feels very good no matter what width you're using. On the bottom, we've got our USB-C port to charge the 850 milliamp hour battery. I haven't done like thorough testing with this. I've only had it for about a week, but it seems like the battery lasts about 20 hours altogether, which is perfect for me. Tucked away here on the bottom right is our Bluetooth pairing button. It's kind of hard to see just because it is flush with the rest of the device, but that's how you reset and redo your Bluetooth pairing if you need to. And so that's a quick run through of all of the hardware on this controller. I think it is solidly built. It feels really good. It doesn't, like loose feeling or anything. And it's surprising that it's only $50 considering that it's so well built, but then also has additional accessories like that hardshell case. It's also surprisingly lightweight. The original X5 Lite was 137 grams, but doesn't have a battery. If you add in the battery here with this one, it only goes up to 166 or so, which is pretty surprising. That makes it lighter than the Backbone Pro, which is also known for being a lightweight and small controller, but yeah, this one is heavier. And it's way lighter than the GameSir G8 Plus, which up until today was like my favorite telescopic wireless controller. This one's 314 grams, which is like almost twice the weight of this one. So next I want to compare the X5s today against the X5 Lite, which came out previously, and this one's the cheaper model. It's $35 and has that USB-C connectivity, so it's a direct connection. Also, by virtue of having that direct connection, you can do USB-C charging pass-through. So if you want to charge your phone at the same time that you're playing it, this is going to work with that. It also has digital triggers, so it just goes from 0 to 100%, kind of like a Nintendo Switch. So that's going to be excellent in some use cases, for example, a first-person shooter where you don't need to go like from 0 to 50 or 100, you just need to shoot. This is an easier setup. So I think at $35, this still has a lot of merit depending on whether or not this matches your use case. But I think that the X5s just expands that a lot more. So what does the X5 have that the X5 Lite does not? And number one is that Bluetooth connectivity. It is Bluetooth 5.3. And being a wireless controller opens up a bunch of connectivity options. In addition to iOS and Android, you can use it with your Switch and Switch 2, or you can actually just put this in PS4 pairing mode, so you can connect it to basically anything, including just a regular PC. And it also has that wired mode too, so you can plug it in direct if you would like. And connecting to the various platforms is through a hotkey. So you'll press the chicken button plus one of the face buttons. So you can press chicken plus A, that's going to go into D input or Android mode. You can press chicken plus B, that's going to be DualShock mode. That'll also work with iOS. And then you can also do chicken plus Y for Switch and Switch 2. That'll also work with iOS if you were like to connect it like a Switch Pro controller. But you probably want to use the PS4 one so you can use those analog triggers. Finally, you can also do chicken plus X, that's going to be G-Touch mode. So I don't really use that one, but that's for like key mapping. If you're playing a game that doesn't have built-in controls, you can then map the buttons to something on the screen, and that's how you do it with the chicken plus X mode. So let's use Switch 2 as our first example. We'll press chicken and X. That's going to go into the Switch pairing mode. It'll flash red initially, and then you can just, connect it like you would any other Bluetooth controller on Switch. We've got almost all the same functionality as a Switch Pro controller too, other than Amiibo or NFC communication. The device also has HD or linear vibration, and it feels really nice and subtle, especially when playing something like Switch 2. It also has gyro support, both in Switch mode as well as the DualShock 4 or PS4 mode. When it comes to Android pairing, you would just press the chicken and A button there. It's going to flash yellow and then it will connect. And once it connects, it'll go white. And everything in the Android experience works exactly as you would expect, including those analog triggers. But one additional feature that I figured out and I think is really neat is you can press chicken up and down and it'll adjust the volume on the tablet or phone right then and there. And that's really handy. I've used that so much when streaming or playing things like Destiny Rising. Now, one concern with Bluetooth controllers is that they have inherent latency with that wireless connection, and I'm not the best judge of this just because I don't really detect it myself very well, but I will say that in all my playing, I couldn't tell the difference between wired and wireless. I think it is nice and snappy. Another benefit of having a Bluetooth controller over USB-C means that we can rotate our tablet and play it in vertical mode. This is going to be awesome for playing things like Nintendo DS or vertical arcade games. With a USB-C connection like the X5 Lite, you're kind of limited to the fact that the port has to go in a certain way, but with Bluetooth, you've got a lot more freedom. For iPhone and iPad, you can either use switch mode, which will remove the analog inputs and also swap out your ABXY, so I don't really recommend that. Or you can do the chicken plus B for the PS4 or DualShock mode, and that is going to keep the analog input. So again, it's just as simple as, pressing the chicken plus that, it'll flash blue and then it'll connect. Now I've already paired it previously, so it's just going to connect easily. And that's really about it when it comes to Apple products. It just works out of the box, and I do recommend using that PS4 mode so you can get those analog triggers and full gyro too. Now, one feature that this controller has that I never really use is that you can just plug it in wired. So you can use the USB cable that comes with it and then plug it into your computer. For example, right here, I'm using a Windows tablet PC from Asus. By default, it's going to show up as an X input controller, but if you press and hold select for a couple seconds, it's going to disconnect and then reconnect as a different controller. And it's going to cycle through from being an X input to Switch Pro controller. And then if you do it one more time, it will also be a PS4 or DualShock controller. And so depending on the game that you're playing, whether or not you need like gyroscope or analog triggers, you've got 3 different options when in wired mode, and I love that. I don't personally use this mode, but I can see there's merit to it. For example, if you wanted to charge a controller while also playing on something, you can totally do that. Or say, for example, if you were to go on like a business trip and you only want to take one controller to use it on multiple things like your laptop as well as your phone, then that would be a pretty easy fit. But the other thing to consider is that this has that wireless PS4 mode, and you could just use that to connect to your Windows PC or Steam Deck or whatever. And so you don't actually have to use the wired connection to use it on Windows. You can just use the PS4 mode. And the silly thing is that they don't even really advertise this as being Windows friendly wirelessly, but they've got all the connectivity options right here, so it's kind of like a secret feature that's not in the manual. Speaking of manual, let's talk about some of the hotkey options that we have once we are connected to your various platforms. On Android, I already mentioned that you can adjust the volume by pressing up and down plus the chicken button, but we've got a bunch of other options. For example, you can use a turbo function, so you can press the A button here to shoot Mega Man's gun, but if I press M and A really quickly, it'll flash red, and that means that it's now turbo, and so you can see as I'm pressing it, it's going really fast. Another hotkey that we can use is M plus up and down. That will adjust the vibration sensitivity in those linear motors, and I personally keep it at kind of a low one, but you can obviously adjust it more if you would like. There's also a hotkey for the triggers to make them hair triggers. So right now I haven't done anything, so my R2 button will just kind of slowly go across the further I push down on the trigger. But if I press and hold the M button in R2, it's going to swap it over to hair trigger mode. You can see it flashing red for a second. So now when I press it, it just goes from 0 to 100%. There's nothing in between. And so now it's in hair trigger mode. And you literally just have to press it down like that much to make it activated. So if you really want to use this for like a first-person shooter game, you still have that really quick reaction time. And then finally, like I mentioned, you can also change out the ABXY pattern within the software. So right now I have it set where it's just the standard Super Nintendo setup for Mario World. So this is my regular jump, this is my spin jump. But if I press and hold the M button and A button, it's going to swap the inputs around. So now this is the spin button, this is the regular jump. And depending on what you're using, like playing a Switch game or whatever, this will be a really handy fix. And all you have to do to change it back is just press and hold again, give it a couple seconds. It'll lightly vibrate when it changes. Now, in addition to the hotkeys, there's also a GameSir app on Android and iOS. This can give you more granular details. So you can test your gamepad, you can change out your ABXY pattern, but you can also do things like adjust your dead zones for the analog sticks, depending on how sensitive you want them to be. Same thing with the triggers, and then also you can do that quick trigger or like that hair trigger as well. This is also where you can adjust things like the vibration sensitivity if you want to make it higher or lower. And then finally, you can also do some lighting settings. So if you don't like the white light that it has when connected, you can just pick a color or adjust it to your own, or just turn it off altogether. You can make it all the way down to 0. And so there won't be a light at all. It really depends on what you prefer. And probably one of the more important things too is that you can update the firmware if there is a new version. I don't have one just yet, but if they do offer any software updates, this is where you can do that. So when you put it all together, including this solid hardware and then all the different software options that we have that are all relatively simple, I think we've got a big winner here. For $50, it's kind of crazy how much value we're getting. I've been testing this for about a week now, mostly doing tablet gaming on it, so playing things like Destiny Rising as well as game streaming, and I've really enjoyed it. I was also surprised to find how much I enjoyed using it with my Switch too. It's a big upgrade over the original Joy-Cons. I think we will probably get better controllers in the future. After all, the Switch 2 just came out, but as it stands right now, yeah, I like using this better than the stock experience. And I think it becomes an even better value when you compare it against the other options we have in the market, because I think GameSir is really undercutting everybody else. I mean, let's take the Backbone Pro as an example. This is a USB-C controller. It's not a Bluetooth controller, so already we have less functionality. It, for example, doesn't work with a Nintendo Switch, but this one cost $170. Now, there are some good features to it. I think that the sticks on this are better than on the GameSir. It also has 2 back buttons that you can program, but otherwise, I think that the GameSir is just a superior controller all around, and it's $120 cheaper. I've also found myself preferring it over the G8 Plus, which is kind of surprising for me. I mean, I really love this one. It's got, full-size controls, kind of feels like an Xbox cut in half, but it's also quite heavy. It's about twice as heavy as the X5s, and it's more expensive. It's $80 compared to $50, and this one comes with its own case too. And so it is surprising to me how much better these controllers have been getting. I mean, it was less than a year ago that I reviewed the G8 Plus and thought it was just awesome. And here we are with something that's even better and cheaper. And it really makes me excited to see what's going to happen in 2026. If they can make this big of a jump and make something so compact and easy to use, then who knows what the future will bring. Now, in addition to the controller, GameSir sent me over this accessory. Let's take a quick look. This is called the FX5. So it's a thermoelectric cooler. So this essentially will cool down your phone or tablet, those that don't have active cooling of their own. And this thing is specifically made for the X5s and the X5 Lite. And all you just do is kind of slide it into place like this. And then this is the part that really cools everything off. You've got 2 options. You can use it with or without this battery module. So without the battery module, you'd have to plug this into a USB-C port, and then you would then have it activate the fan and it will cool everything down. So let's use our tablet as the example. So I'm going to connect it right here. Everything is set in place, and then we're just going to slide this in here on the back. So it's not putting any additional strain on it, and you can also adjust this to where you want it to be. I don't know where the CPU on this tablet is or where it's going to have a hot spot, but you can just basically cool it down along the back of the tablet. So you can either plug that in, or I think it is pretty neat, you can use this battery pack. You just pop it in and it'll immediately turn on and start going. The fan itself is kind of loud. Let me give you a quick listen, and I'm also going to go through the 3 different power modes. This is actually the quietest mode right here. So I see this as being a better fit for like the Chinese audience because they play a lot of high-end mobile games. But if you also play that kind of stuff, then yeah, that might work. And I really love this kind of magnetic mechanism. It is kind of neat, but also bear in mind that you will have to charge this separately too. So it is one additional thing you have to charge in addition to this Bluetooth controller and the device itself. That's 3 things altogether. But this technology is really neat. After just like 10 seconds of having this on, it gets super cold right here. And obviously that coldness will transfer over to your phone and tablet too. So really cool technology, just not something that I think I would personally use. Now, this thing costs $40 altogether. So it's an accessory that is almost expensive as the controller itself. You really have to consider whether or not you're going to use it. So let's go ahead and summarize and talk about, what I like and what I don't like about this controller, and there's a lot to like here. Number 1 by far is the price point. I think in 2025, it's not often that we see something that is of actual real value. It seems like things are getting worse and worse, but somehow these GameSir controllers keep getting better. Even though it's $50, it's comparable to some of the other high-end offerings that are around the $150 price point, and I love the amount of value that we're getting here. And unlike a lot of those other controllers, this one comes with its own carrying case, which just makes it that much more mobile friendly. I also love that it's lightweight. It's one of the main reasons why this will probably be my primary Bluetooth telescopic controller going forward. I also like the fact that it's a simple controller with relatively no frills. By that I mean that I can use hotkeys to adjust things on the fly, and then from there, if I need to go into the app and adjust things at the software level, I can do that too, but for the most part, you don't. We've also got a lot of customizable options. We can change out the ABXY pattern, both physically as well as in the software. But then because it's a Bluetooth controller, we've got a bunch of connection options, including the fact that we can use it with Switch or vertical tablet gaming and so on. It's also somewhat modular in that we have that cooling accessory that you do not have to buy if you don't use it, but you have it there if you want it to. So it does feel like a controller that can do many things at once. Now, like with everything, this is not perfect, so let's talk about a few things that I didn't like about this controller. Number one is the D-pad. I would say it's pretty good, but not perfect. I would give it a B+. It really depends on the game, but I did find it to be more sensitive than I would like when playing precision platformers. I also think the sticks are a little bit small. It's always going to be a compromise when trying to make something very compact, but other compact controllers like the Backbone Pro do have larger sticks that feel better. And then finally, even though I think this controller is an excellent value at $50, there are better options out there if you have bigger hands. Now, those other options are going to cost more, but I think that if you're looking for the ultimate in comfort, this controller is not quite there. Instead, I see the GameSir X5s as being a very good controller that punches way above its weight class when you consider its $50 price point. It's certainly not perfect, and you can find better options out there if you pay 3 times as much, but at $50, I don't think you can find anything better. And that's what I love about this race to find the perfect controller, either telescopic or just a regular old controller, is that there are companies who are making them better and better, and somehow also making them a very good deal. And that's what I love to see, is this competition and these additional features, but also driving down that price point, which is good for everyone. So at the end of the day, I would say don't throw out all of the other telescopic controllers if you already have one, but if you're in the market for a new one and $50 sounds about right for you, this is the one to get. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. How is it that these controllers are getting better and better? Is it because the companies are listening to the customers, or are we just in this golden age of telescopic controllers? As always, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming.